Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to hang out as I show you how to make the always adaptable crochet beaded scarf wrap shawl that is also reversible. There's no pre-stringing, it's beginner friendly, and you can make this scarf in multiple yarn weights from lace to chunky. There is a link to the written pattern in the description below. These are the gift cards, the printable gift cards that I include with the written pattern for this particular scarf. They feature Snags the kitty. I started drawing him in honor of my real life kitty, Max, who unfortunately passed away. And I thought this is a great way to remember him and his antics. Uh, he loved to play with my yarn, and so I'll include these printable gift cards with the pattern. Today's featured yarn is Lion Brand's Mandala String Yarn. And so those of you that know me personally know I am so critical of acrylic yarn. But this is different. It's just beautiful. 100% acrylic, 3.5 ounces, 100 grams per skein, and then 350 yards, which is 320 meters. I use for this project 3 skeins, about approximately 220 grams for the sample that I'm going to show you today. Now, it says Superfine. Don't let that scare you away. This yarn feels heavier when you like thicker when you're working it, and it works up so beautifully and so easily. You just slide through it. I'm serious. And so I love it. So this is the colorway in Jingle, right? Yeah, Jingle. Okay, and look at it. Look at that sheen. It reminds me of mercerized cotton, which is one of my favorite types of yarn, but it's acrylic and it's just beautiful. The drape on the fabric, everything. I can't say enough good things about this yarn. Here are your additional supplies. So I've got for the main working hook, I've got my H8 5mm hook. You see it's been well used. And then to place my beads, I'm going to use a 1.5 millimeter. You can also use a 1.1 millimeter or smaller if you don't have this size, but this is what's going to allow me to draw that yarn through the bead holes, okay? Uh, Next, we have, this is a tape measure. You're going to use this when you block your shawl, your scarf, and of course, any blocking materials that goes with it, the mats, pins, cones, whatever you like to use for blocking, and the measuring tape. 2-stitch markers. You'll also need scissors and a tapestry needle. Okay, there's this 4mm square beads. For the size shawl that I did on the sample, I used 270 beads. So that would mean buying approximately like 30 grams, a 30-gram amount of these beads. Okay, they just so you know, these beads will accommodate any yarn from lace weight through worsted. The holes are big enough to accommodate those yarn weights, and of course you can use whatever beads you want, just as long as the yarn is able to go through the bead holes. Like I say, bulky wouldn't work for this because it's too thick, but you could find another type of bead, all right, maybe a 2.0 seed bead that would accommodate a bulky yarn. It's your choice. This is your scarf. It's fully customizable. So, and then finally, my bead board that I always have, and I will let you know where I buy those. Okay. Next, we're going to talk about how we work the scarf. So, I have in front of me a sample of the scarf, wrap, shawl. They're all interchangeable because it just depends on how big and you make it, what you use it for. So, there is no right or wrong side to this scarf. There is instead a side 1 and a side 2 because it's reversible. So the pattern refers to side 1. This is side 1 here, and we're going to add beads to side 1. These are our odd numbered rows, side 1, okay? And then you have side 2, which are the even numbered rows where we do all of our increases to make the shawl bigger. And look, this is beautiful as well, you see? So what I like to do when I wear this scarf is I like to wear this side 2 outward if I want a more casual look for the day. And if I want something more dressy, I'll wear side 1 with the beads showing out. I originally did this design to make something quick and easy to remember rows to take when I travel, so that I can, it's called always adaptable. So I'm adaptable to any occasion. That's the idea. All right. So this is the top of the scarf right here. And as you can see, it has a beautiful border. This border we will form as we work the scarf by using a variation of a very simple stitch. That's the top edge. And then the side edge, same thing, same stitch, and we'll form this edge as well. We will end by doing a final edge, which I'll show you when we get there, that will complete everything. So there's no need to crochet around the entire scarf or anything like that. You finish the final edge, you cut your yarn, you weave in your tails, you're done. Okay, very, very simple. So let me turn the work the way we would be looking at it as we work the scarf. So this is how we would work the scarf, right? We're going to start at this corner here. It's called the setup corner. That's 2 rows. And then we'll start working our repeats, which consist of 12 rows, adding our beads. The 12 rows actually only have 3 rows that are repeated and that are easy to remember. And then so we'll do 12, and then we'll do it again, and you do it again until the scarf gets to the size that you want it to be. Now for this particular sample that I did for the pattern, I repeated 10 times, but you are flexible, and be flexible and customize it any way you want. So let's start with this magic ring. And if you get, once again, if you have a magic ring technique that works for you, that's what you do. Here's what I do. So I have this tail. It's about 4 inches. It's going off to my right. I don't need more than 4 inches, because as I pull the ring closed, this tail will get longer. I'll have more than enough to weave in. So that goes to the right. That's where I hold my hook. And then the working yarn that leads to the skein goes off to the left. That's where I tension my yarn. So what I do is I cross that working yarn strand over the tail, over the tail, just like that, and I hold everything in place. Okay, that creates the little ring. Tension, insert the hook, yarn over, drop a loop, and then chain 1. That's all I do. That's the only chain you will see in this pattern. So from there, I just go right in and work 4 single crochet into that ring over the strands. So 1, and I'm going to mark that first one with my stitch marker, just so. Okay, see that? And then 3 more. 1, 2, 3, for a total of 4 single crochet in that ring. Close that ring by pulling the strand, and that is row 1, side 1. Set up row number 2, which is a side 2, right? So from now on, every single beginning of every single row, whether side 1 or side 2, odd, even, will begin with this stitch. I call it extended loop single crochet. It's very simple. And this is what's going to create our side and top edges for the shawl or scarf, okay? So let's extend your loop to approximately 4 times the height of a regular single crochet in whatever yarn you're using. And you notice I say just extend it 4 times the height instead of, extend it an inch or extend it 2 inches, because while if I were to say extend it an inch, that would work for this yarn. But if you're using a bulky yarn, that's going to be too short. So that's why I say just estimate and extend it to 4 times the height of a single crochet. So here you are. Hold on to that and just work a regular single crochet like you would in the next stitch. So insert into the next stitch, yarn over, draw up a loop, hold on to that initial loop, and then yarn over, draw through the 2 loops, and there you go. And I know it looks weird and wonky, but trust me, it works out and it makes a beautiful edge. So I'm going to put my stitch marker right there, and since this is a side 2, we increase, and here's how we increase. We add 3 single crochet into this first stitch. So into that same stitch, you're going to single crochet 3 times. So that's 4 stitches total into that single crochet. We've increased our stitches by 3. The rest of the stitches are simple. You're just going to single crochet into the last 3 stitches of the row. 1, 2, and here's our last stitch. I'm going to take the stitch marker out because it's in my way. And 3. Okay. And now that gives us 7 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And that's our setup. We are back on side 1 and ready to start that 12 row sequence that is going to make up the body of the shawl. Okay, so rows 1 to 10 of those 12 rows are repeats of the next 2 rows that I'm going to show you. So here's row 1. You're going to do the extended loops single crochet right into that first stitch, right? So see if I can see. There we go. Put your stitch marker in, just like that. And then go ahead and do into that same first stitch to work 2 double crochet. Okay, into that same first stitch. All right, skip the next 2 stitches, and then that third stitch right there, you're going to work a shell. And the shell for this pattern is 1 single crochet into that stitch and 2 double crochet into the same stitch. So single crochet and then 2 double crochet into the same stitch. Oops. Okay. And you will do that until you get to the last 3 stitches. In our case, it's right now. Last 3 stitches, skip 2, and then just single crochet into that last stitch. I'm going to remove the stitch marker to make it easier for me. And then into that last stitch, just go ahead and work that single crochet. Okay, and that's row 1, turn. Row 2, you already know. This is our increase row. So in the first stitch, extended loop single crochet, put your stitch marker back in, and then in that same first stitch, 3 single crochet, 3 standard single crochet. Okay, and that increases our row by 3 more stitches, which we're going to end up with 10. The rest of the row is easy. You just single crochet into all of the stitches in the row that are left. So let's go ahead and do that. Down to the last 3, just single crochet in each stitch. Okay, one more. Okay, turn. So those are the 2 rows. So rows 3 through 10, you're just going to keep alternating, repeating those first 2 rows. So row 1, once again, I'll show you extended loop single crochet into that first stitch. I'm tongue tied a little bit today. All right, and then 2 double crochet into that first stitch as well, right? Okay. All right, and then skip 2, shell, single crochet into the next that stitch, and then 2 double crochet into the same stitch. That's our shell. All right, skip 2, shell, okay, and then skip 2, last stitch is just a single crochet into that last stitch. You turn and you repeat those 2 rows again. So do that and until you have a total of 10 rows, and then we'll do rows 11 and 12. Okay, I have finished my rows 1 through 10 of that 12 row sequence, and I have repeated the first 2 rows 5 times, right, essentially, and increased my stitches to 24 stitches at this point. Now, I told you there were 3 rows that we would repeat all together. Okay, so those 2 rows were repeated, and here's the 3rd row that's going to be repeated throughout the scarf, and that's the beaded row. So I'm going to insert my hook into the loop, my main hook, business as usual, extended single crochet into that first stitch. Okay, just like that. I'll put my stitch marker. And here's where we also add 2 more double crochet into that first stitch. Okay, so that we already know. 2 double crochet. All right, skip the next 2, and here's where we add our bead. So insert your main hook into that stitch, yarn over, drop a loop. Take that loop off the hook, leaving the 1 loop on. Grab your bead hook and your beads. I'm going to slide them over. I'm going to place a bead onto my bead hook, and I'm going to insert into that loop, and then just draw the loop through the bead hole. It's that simple. Place it back onto the main hook. You got 2 loops. Yarn over, draw through the 2 loops. That's it. In that same stitch, go ahead and do 2 double crochet. Okay. Let me show you that again. So skip the next 2, insert your hook in, yarn over, drop a loop, take the loop off the main hook and set it aside for a second, and then go ahead and grab a bead onto that bead hook, insert it through the loop, draw the loop through the bead hole, put that loop back onto the main hook, 2 loops, yarn over, draw through the 2 loops, 2 double crochet in that same stitch. So that's how we add our beads to this row. Okay, and see how beautiful that is, and simple, no pre-stringing. And then you would continue to skip to add another beaded shell is what it is, but do the same thing until you get all the way to the last 3 stitches. Skip those 2 and then single crochet right there. Okay, and then you would turn and you would do a row 2 repeat, and that would complete your 12th row. And then you would, start from the beginning, repeat the 10, and then 11, 12. Okay, so I did for this shawl, I repeated that 10 times total, and this being the first repeat, and I did 9 more, and then I did my final edge. I'm going to use this little mini scarf that I've been working on to show you how to work the final edge. This is after you've repeated those 12 rows as many times as you want, and until your scarf, shawl, wrap is the size you want it to be. Like I said, I repeated 10 times, but you can do more or less. That's up to you. This is where you would end up. You end up on a side 1 with the beads, okay? And ready to work your final edge. So let's do that now. So there's no extended loop for this, all right? You're just going to work as normal. So you see on this stitch, you got the front loop and the back loop. What we're going to do for this edge, because I wanted an edge that looked equally pretty from both sides, what we're going to do is we're going to work slip stitches first to the front for this stitch, the front loop, and the next stitch, the back loop, and then the front loop for the stitch after that, and then the back loop. We're going to alternate working slip stitches in the front and back loops. So here's what it looks like. You go right into that first stitch and slip stitch around that front loop, just like that. Okay, and now for the next stitch, you're going to slip stitch around the back loop, just like that. The next stitch after that around the front loop. You get the idea. You're just alternating, and then the back loop. Okay, and you're going to continue that way for the entire row, alternating until you get to that last stitch, and then you're going to slip stitch around both loops for that stitch. And as you can see, look how pretty it looks from both sides, and that's what I wanted. Okay, so I'm going to finish. I'm going to go to continue doing this to the last stitch, and I'll show you how to finish this shawl off. I've just done my slip stitch, been alternating slip stitches, and I just did a slip stitch into the back loop. And so now in that last stitch, I'm going to slip stitch into over both loops. Okay, just like that. And that would be the end of that final edge row. So from there, I would cut my yarn, leaving at least 6 inches to weave in. I'm not going to cut this because I'm still working on it. But then you would pull your loop through and then weave in the tail so that it doesn't show from either side. Use these stitch legs to weave the tail underneath. All right, and as you can see on both sides, the edge looks very pretty. The only thing we would need to do, you would also weave in, of course, this beginning tail. You would need to block after this. So let me talk about that for a second, about blocking this particular scarf. And what I like to do, I use blocking mats for my blocking. And what you're trying to do is just, oh, this is lace work. So you're trying to open it up as much as possible. So what I do is I use blocking combs or pins. It's up to you, but I like the blocking combs for this one. I'll I'll insert a picture. I will pin the shawl, the scarf along these edges here. And I start at this corner where we started, the setup corner, and then I just spread it out as I pin, just like that. Okay, and then I'll let it air dry. You hand wash it always, let it air dry completely, and then you can unpin everything and have a beautiful finished object. I want to talk briefly about changing yarn skeins or yarn colors for this particular project. So for this shawl, I like to do my yarn color changes, skein changes on side 2. And that is because side 2 is basically, it's the most basic stitch. It's single crochet pretty much all the way across. So this is how I do it. It just makes it easier, especially if you're a beginner, someone who's never done this, to do it on this side, okay? So I've already done my extended loop single crochet for this first stitch. Remember, this is an increased row, and then 3 more single crochet would go into this first stitch, right? I don't do the color change on the extended single crochet. I do it on the next crochet that's going into this single crochet that's going into the stitch. So insert the hook, yarn over. You have 2 loops. I'm going to drop that old yarn, old color, and I'm going to drape the new color over the hook with the tail in the back here, drape it over, and just draw it through those loops, and there's my color change. Okay, you cinch everything up and you're ready to work in the new color. Let me get myself situated. So I've done that. It's kind of a loose single crochet, but we'll cinch it up, and then I just go ahead and do the rest of my single crochet into that stitch, working with the new skein. Yeah, I hope you enjoy this project, and that you have a wonderful day. Thank you for hanging out with me.